All right, this is Bill Brower with FMBA Nation. We are at the 2020 February convention here at the Golden Nugget in Atlantic City, New Jersey. I have the pleasure to be joined by David Horsnall from the New Jersey Fire Museum and Fallen Firefighters Memorial. David, thanks for taking a couple minutes of your time today to sit here and tell us about the museum and the memorial. And where is the memorial located? And give us a little bit of background about the memorial and the museum.
Well, first of all, thank you, Bill, for doing this. I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it.
Absolutely.
The museum project is actually about 60 years old and was started at that time by a fellow named Ernest Day, who was had a business selling fire apparatus and whatnot out of Dunella, New Jersey. He made a huge donation of equipment to the state through the New Jersey DEP State Parks Group, and of equipment that dates from 1840 up, and what he donated up through 1814 through the 1920s.
Really? Wow.
It's a beautiful collection. Unfortunately, it wasn't stored in the best of conditions for a number of years, and the issue of having a museum, which the state is, by having taken that, obligated to create, has gone up the flagpole and down and risen and fallen over time based on budget considerations, etc.
Sure.
We finally resurrected the chance to have it a few years ago. Been a dedicated group of people over the last several years to try and make it happen again. We have all of the collection now, 99% of it stored at a site in Upper Freehold Township, just outside of Allentown, New Jersey.
Okay.
That is by virtue of a relationship between Monmouth County Park System in Monmouth County and state DEP parks. It's been hard to get, but everybody now is being very cooperative, and we look to expand our site there because it's been primarily a storage facility. So we're now in the process of growing that and expanding the footprint up to as somewhere between 20 and 30 acres, with a number of buildings where we'll be able to store all this stuff and develop a museum that will be open to the public.
Wow.
Subsequent to that, through that whole process, they developed the aspect of the memorial. And that's been on the books for quite a while as well. At the present time, we have what we call an interim memorial at this site, and our hopes are, if we get the expanded consideration, that will become the permanent site for the New Jersey Fallen Firefighters Memorial, which will focus on those who have made that ultimate sacrifice, but also all firemen who have served in any capacity in the state of New Jersey. That's who it will be dedicated to. The museum is meant to show not only the history of the technology of fire service, and it's wonderful to see when you look at something from early 1800s and now look at the equipment that's out there, but also the culture of the firefighter, of those that serve their community with incredible dedication, whether they were, and I almost don't like using to say whether they were. If it was a volunteer, if it's a career firefighter, and as those volunteer those places where there was volunteer service have moved to combination departments and then ultimately all career just because of our culture, we want to show that not only the history of the apparatus, but the people involved. So that's what our goal is. We are hopeful that the state will come together, and that's who we are working with now, people in the legislature, to provide an organization at the state level that will be a funding vehicle or a path, so that the necessary monies are available on a continuing basis to run this museum.
Wow, it really sounds like it's something very special, not only to firefighters, but to the entire state of New Jersey and the residents in the state of New Jersey, because having that history and whatnot right here in our own backyard, and the memorial is something that's very special. I mean, I personally have been to the FDNY museum up in the city, which is just an amazing place, and it's so much history and nostalgia, and just really, if I'm sure you've gone, but just that type of environment and something that we can have here in New Jersey, I think would be something very special.
It will be, and I'm very glad that you pointed out it's not just the firefighters. You know, if you live on a street and a fire truck goes down your street, you probably go out your front door to see where it's going.
Yeah.
Or if you are going down the highway, whether it's a turnpike or a local road, and you see an MVA, you're not only looking at the MVA, you're looking at the equipment that's on the road and the men and women that are doing that work on that scene. So you don't have to be in the fire service to appreciate this.
Right.
We joke about many of us being what we call gearheads. We like old things that go around in circles and make noise.
Yeah.
So it's the restoration of this equipment, and it's the restoration of the history. So we bring it back and show it to people what it was. We at this conference are running a little video. It happens to be something from out of state, but it is a horse-drawn apparatus. And the people that stop, whether we're at a fireman's conference or just running it at one of our fundraisers, the people that stop and say, did they actually get those horses to back up and put that ladder back in the, so there's that excitement of history and interest. It is very important to the whole state.
How many pieces of apparatus do you have, and what kind of items outside of the trucks do you guys have in the museum?
That's a great question, because that's a very important part of the collection. Besides apparatus, and again, apparatus hand-drawn, horse-drawn, motorized, combination waterless pumper that was motorized pump but horse or hand-drawn to get it to the scene. You know, those kinds of pieces of history. Outside of that are bells, whistles, ratchets, sirens, literature, old run records, periodical publications from the late 40s through now. So if somebody wants to go look, perhaps your granddad or your dad, picture from the 50s or 60s or whatever in one of those periodicals, of a fire. So a lot of that kind of thing, badges from departments from the 1800s, gear, actual uniforms, dress gear, and we all laugh. I shouldn't laugh, but we all smile at the guys in the red shirts with the double buttons down the front. We have some of that original gear stuff. That Ernest Day had in his collection. So we as a group that get to work with it are very fortunate. The state and the fire service and first responders and emergency service organizations are very fortunate to have that kind of thing to look back on. Incredible artwork. We have a photo of a fireman in Hoboken, art, oiled, whatnot. We're trying to figure out who he was. So if anybody from Hoboken happens to see this and wants to help us identify this guy, that'd be great.
That'd be special.
Yeah, that would be kind of a great fallout from this. So.
What's the timeline? I mean, is this operational currently now as we're speaking, or is there a time frame in which the museum and the memorial and all that stuff will be open?
Well, considering that it is been a 60-year project, but we've made the dedicated people that have been working on this forever. I mean, the ones 30, 40, 50 years ago put their heart and soul into it, and it didn't move to where they wanted it. We've been fortunate with the legislators and others that have an interest in this. For example, FMBA, your brothers and sisters in other organizations in the fire service have come together in a group we call the Coalition. And so that's pushing it and giving us strength through their memberships and their connections with those that will provide the facility and the funding. The timeline is this: we are open now as requested. We open doors, walk people through, show them the equipment, get them interested. We're there almost every Saturday and 2 or 3 of us during the week doing a lot of things to raise awareness of it. Right now we're working very hard with people in the legislature on both sides of the aisle, in both chambers, the Senate and the Assembly. Right now a little more in the Assembly than the Senate, but we're getting there, to develop legislation that will create an organization that will allow the state to successfully fund this program. That timeline is uncertain.
Yeah, we all know that process.
You know what that process is. I would hope that in the next few months we have this organization at the state level, my word, not everybody else's, but a commission, a fire museum commission and memorial commission to begin to have that in place, and then to have monies approved in the budget that will fund their operation.
Right.
Our board of directors, we're a 501c3 now, will continue to operate somewhere in that realm of responsibility to help put a face on the museum and develop its growth. I hope that we have that commission in place early in this year sometime.
Oh, wow.
There's people working on that legislation now. You smiled, I smile when we say, yeah, well, when will it be?
Right.
We're hoping it's sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
We have great representation, again, from FMBA, New Jersey State Firemen's Association, your brothers and sisters in the other bargaining unit in the state, the IAFF, and it is, as much as it's a bipartisan legislative effort, it is a coalition of all people interested in the fire service and the history of the fire service, no matter the organization. So we've been very fortunate in being able to bring those entities together. We need the support. If I get a chance to speak, and I may here to the conference, I want to talk strongly about this thing called the coalition. Coalition in the field, in the organizations, as well as the coalition of bipartisan support in the legislature and the administration.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take their signatures no matter what the legislator does.
Yeah, that leads me kind of into my next question for you. How does an FMBA member go about supporting this museum and memorial? Is there something that our members can do now?
Yes. I would first ask that you speak with all of in your local meetings about it. We have, the FMBA is an organization member of this group, but what we truly need is the individual membership, and they can contact us. We have application forms at our table here at the conference. It's $25 a year. If you multiply that times a substantial percentage of the members in the fire service organizations, we could get a cup of coffee.
Yeah, sorry for the background noise.
And get a number of, but it is that does two things. It gives us strength when we're talking to the legislature.
Sure.
When we can say there's 20,000 people out there, or 30,000. And at $25, I don't think it's too much to ask to help preserve this and move this project forward. And that gives us capital, resources to maybe begin restoring some pieces of apparatus, because we don't have that kind of money.
Sure.
And to meet our obligations for insurance, utility bills, site
the
work,
operations
maintenance,
of
our
the
current,
facility.
So just take $25, pick the number of people in the state that could be individual members.
Yeah.
And that's substantial resource for us. Very important from a voting point of view and contact with legislature and revenue to keep us afloat.
Gotcha. Is there any information? You guys have a website or anything online that they can go to?
NewJerseyFireMuseum.org is the website. There are links to Instagram and Facebook on our site.
Okay.
We just started an Instagram account set up about a month ago, and I think it's more like 3 weeks. But I think this morning we went over 400 followers.
Oh, good.
So it's moving through all levels of the fire service and first responder program. I thank you for asking the right questions, Bill, because it gives me a chance to get those points out there. We have the website, NewJerseyFireMuseum.org. That's a new website. With our number of volunteers, we work very hard and struggle at keeping it up to date and new information and provide updates. But we're getting there. We're getting better at that. The Instagram account is, to me, is not surprising, but I say, why weren't we doing this a year ago?
Social media has a it's very powerful form of communication, especially to the right audience that you're trying to reach. And there's so many different tips and tricks. And actually, if you guys ever need any help with any of that stuff, you can always reach out to me, and I'd love to give you some assistance.
Can I shake your hands on that offer right now? You bet. Absolutely. Yes. Some of us are a little old, and we find this technology daunting, and so I have a couple of friends and my son that will come over and say, now look, just listen, this is how it works. I really count on that big time. But it does everything it says it's going to do. I think with the Instagram, we're reaching those fire stations from the large cities to the smaller cities, and I think we're going to, if we can track it in any way, I would bet that many of them are the folks that are just coming into the fire service, and maybe up into their mid-30s or so, that use this technology all the time. And that is the support we're looking for, and it's the audience that the museum ought to be reaching. We get young families that'll show up, and they're out doing something, and they'll come by and they'll have, one or two or sometimes 5 kids, and they can't wait to see the apparatus.
I'll tell you right now, I'm already in my head planning a trip there. I got 2 boys. I got a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. And they are obsessed. Obsessed isn't even the word with fire trucks.
Good. Well, we welcome them. You've got my number. And I live close. So if anybody's listening to this and wants to see it, they can get to me through the website, and we'll get the building open. So that they can see this stuff. It's kind of jammed where the apparatus is. But the office building that we have a lot of the smaller memorabilia or artifacts in, a lot of it's on the wall, a lot of it's on the in the glass cases. So it's really interesting. I'd like to make another point about the museum. And we talked about this site expansion. We've had to learn something about museums. And as we struggled to find a permanent site, we went through a number of different communities and a number of different structures. And many of them were great for a passive kind of museum setup, where you'd walk in and see the apparatus, and you'd see nozzles and helmets and uniforms and badges and pictures and whatnot, and see some old periodicals or old artwork or run sheets from a given fire department. But it wasn't, and for a long time we used the word interactive, thinking computers, where kids could come in, or anybody could come in and look at something on the computer. Interactive for us has now become a living fire museum. Just as you go to a county park and see farm animals and pigs and chickens and representing older folks sawing lumber and doing all that kind. Our plan is to have an active or interactive fire museum. This property that we're looking at has a big pond on it. We look at being able to draft out of that. We look at being able to move water on that. Bucket brigades from the older times and using hand-drawn apparatus right up through. We're in the middle of horse country. We have one of our supporters in the legislature who comes out of the equine industry, and he keeps saying, David, you've got horse-drawn steamers over there. You've got horse-drawn ladder wagons and things. He said, we know we can find horses to pull that stuff. So you get this picture of it's a working, the vision. Thank you. That's the word. Get the vision to be able. Then That's not going to happen every day of the week, but we'll be able to plan those kinds of activities.
You can have events, and
sure.
That sounds. I mean, the potential's really what you're talking about. Sound amazing. I mean, the interactive fire museum. I think you'll have people coming from out of state, coming from in state, all over the place to really get to experience and enjoy that part of history and kind of relive and maybe, you know, the ones that don't have any experience or you know, are not fire service related, do get the chance to experience and understand and see how everything works and what firefighters over the years have had to you know, use and work with. So that's special.
When we watch video of, I was talking about this video we're running of, I think it was Portland. I always get confused whether it's Portland, Oregon or Portland, Maine, this video. But you see those horses working, and these were responding to fires. That is kind of, you say, oh man, how did they do that? When I saw a video a year or so ago of, I think it was LA steamer, certainly it was the West Coast, and 4 horses pulling the steamer down the street, and they were going at like they were responding to a fire.
Oh,
it wasn't
really?
just you know, cruising along. Yeah, okay, I'm come out of the volunteer fire service, but I still have that's still exciting to me. You know, so you know, we'll be able to do something like that in Central Jersey, and that was another reason for wanting this particular site. If you're coming from the southern part of the state or you're coming from the north, it's equal distance.
Yep.
If you're coming from the Midwest, you come across out of Pennsylvania, and you're there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we are, right in the middle of the state.
Yeah.
So, if we can bring the legislature along, and I'm hopeful that we'll have their support. It seems that we do so far, and have constructed the right kind of legislation for this. It's going to finally be a reality, and that's what we're working toward.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, you know, I think what you guys are doing there is really great stuff for the fire service in New Jersey, and the citizens and residents of the state, and you know, firefighters across the state. So I appreciate what you guys are doing. The FMBA appreciates what you guys are doing. Obviously, you have the full support of the organization. And you know, anything else we can do to help you guys move that along, you know, we'll do in a moment's notice. So the website again was njfiremuseum.com. .org. Okay.
Yep.
njfiremuseum.org. Email address that someone could reach out to?
Right now it would be my personal email address, and I don't mind giving you that. It's DW Horsnall, HORSNALL @AOL.com.
Okay.
In our website, we do have
contact form or something like
that.
Yeah,
and that has the. We're just changing administration, some new people coming in the offices, but there'll be an email link on the website to the president and the secretary.
Gotcha.
So please feel free to contact us anyway. Bill, if I may, just want to add one more thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our effort isn't to replace any museum. Cities have their own. Newark has a great museum. And now here I'm into this thing. I'll leave somebody out that's important. The City of Trenton, the Meredith Havens. I hope Dennis Keenan doesn't get too angry if I've given the exact wrong name. Great museum.
Yeah.
You know, but
there's one actually up in Union, Liberty Hall
that's
Museum.
Yeah. And that's at the
Kean University.
And we've had some interaction with them where they've supplied some of their product or their collectibles to us that we have in our museum. I'm glad you mentioned that.
My wife, actually, her family is from Boonton.
Okay.
So the Boonton Fireman's Home, I know they've got some stuff there as well, and they've got that parade that they do every year for Labor Day, which is a huge thing. A lot of fire engines and trucks and antiques that go through that. So
we don't want to. We're not out to replace any. In fact, one of our vice presidents, who was president now, Bob Burns, is very active in the Fire Museum Association around the country. And we've been talking about creating, I'll use the term again, coalition, but an organization of fire museums, so that maybe we can exchange parts of the collection so that it's
Sure.
fresh in Newark or fresh in Boonton,
Mm-hmm.
Union,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of grow the awareness of this wherever it is in the state.
Yeah.
One of the apparatus from the Ernie Day collection is back in Trenton. It's there. The state is part of the state-owned part of the collection. That's sitting in there. That's hand drawn, and they've cleaned it up and presented wonderfully. Has some very interesting artwork on it that was done in the day.
Yeah.
Not necessarily what you would find painted on the front fender of a truck now, but remember that was in the 1800s.
Sure. Right.
So it's and they do, all these organizations, all these museums do a great job at showing. I believe the thing that will differentiate it and make it more, again, is this living concept. Because we're in the rural part of the state where we can do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate for us.
Yeah.
So I wish them all well. We just want to have a good cooperative relationship with all of them.
Sure, that makes sense. Well, David, thank you again for spending a couple minutes with me talking about this stuff. I'm excited about it. I know that a lot of our listeners will be excited when they hear this. And go on Instagram, search for NJ Fire Museum on Instagram. Is that the tag?
That's it.
We'll find you. We'll share some stuff that you guys are putting out there as well, and really try and get the name out and the word out about the museum and the memorial.
Bill,
So,
thank you very
so
much for this opportunity.
Yeah, no problem.
Have a great rest of the conference,
You as
and
well.
Stop by and say hello.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you now.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, thanks for listening to another great episode of FMBA Nation, and stay tuned for some more great content to come. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can also listen on the NJ FMBA YouTube channel, as well as Apple Podcasts, Anchor, and the Google Play Store. And if you're interested in becoming a sponsor of the FMBA Nation podcast, please email us at nation@njfmba.org.